Hola a todos, bienvenidos a esta clase de español en línea. In today's video, we are going to talk about the pretérito imperfecto, the imperfect tense. So we are going to talk about some ways how do we use them, the conjugation, and actually an acronym to help us how to use like several rules that has this past tense. And first of all, let's see, ¿qué es el imperfecto? Se usa para hablar de acciones habituales. So it's just to talk about habitual actions, repetitions in the past, acciones continuas as well, or sin un principio o un fin definido, without a beginning or an end. Yeah. So something that also I like to explain about this is like this past tense, pretérito imperfecto, is the past of the present. So whatever we usually do in the present, in the future, we can talk in imperfecto. So nowadays, I'm waking up every day at 6 a.m. I'm taking a shower at this time. And now, maybe in the future, in 10 years from now, that I will change these habits, I can talk about this time in imperfecto. And this one is going to tell us about that experience, but when I was a child. So look, cuando era niño, me levantaba a las 7 a.m. When I was a child, I used to wake up at 7 a.m. Desayunaba con mis padres, iba a la escuela en el autobús. So I used to have breakfast with my parents. I used to go to the school to the school in the bus. Por las tardes, después de comer, hacía mis deberes. In the afternoon, I used to do my homework. I usually do my homework. And then I played with my friends in the park. Por las noches, usualmente, mis padres y yo cenábamos a las 7 y me iba a la cama a las 9. So all that actions on all these verbs that are used here are the imperfecto. And all of them are talking about repetitions in the past, when I was a child. Not anymore now in the present, because I'm not a child anymore. Yeah. And so, how is the conjugation? This is in the next slide. Conjugación. So I chose like the irregular verbs in present. So you will notice that this past tense is the easiest one, because like I told you, it has just 3 irregular verbs that we are going to see in the next slide. First, let's go with this verb, pensar. So in this pretérito imperfecto, so is pensaba. Yo pensaba, tú pensabas, él pensaba, nosotros pensábamos, vosotros pensabais, ellos pensaban. And look at this pattern in all verbs ending with "ar". Yeah, all verbs in general, 100% of the verbs, they are going to have this pattern of the AVA. And then the endings. And something important as well. Look, the yo form, the first person singular, and the third person singular, él, ella, usted, has the same conjugation. Yeah. So let's go to another verb. Verbo tener. Now, this is the pattern ia. So you're going to see tenía, tenías, tenía, teníamos, teníais, tenían. And dormir. Dormía, dormías, dormía, dormíamos, dormíais, dormían. So again, look at the endings between the verbs ending with er and with ir. So they have the same endings, ia, ia. So that is gonna happen with many, many verbs ending with er and ir. I'm not gonna say now the 100% because we have like verbs that they are irregular, ending with er and with ir. And something else about this past tense. So if we're thinking about repetitions or actually ongoing actions, so what's the meaning of pensaba, tenía, o dormía? Could be I used to think repetitions, or I was thinking ongoing action. Tenía, I used to have. I was having, no, in that one is I had, but we are going to see the rules in a moment. Dormía, I used to sleep or I was sleeping. Now, let's go to the irregular ones. Three irregular ones. Number one, verbo ser. So verbo ser is irregular in almost all tenses. Yo era, tú eras, él era, nosotros éramos, vosotros erais, ellos eran. Ir, iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, ibais, iban. And the last irregular is verbo ver. Yo veía, tú veías, él veía, nosotros veíamos, ellos veían. Vosotros veíais, of course. And look, the endings of ver is the same like the regular verb. The only difference is like the stem of the verb keeps the e. So this is the three irregular verbs in this past tense. And now, how to use the Pretérito Imperfecto. I love using this acronym. So what is an acronym? An acronym is normally a word that we are going to use and the letters of the words for helping us to remember when do we use. Yeah, for this case, we are going to use these Spanish words, derecha, right. So the D has one of the meanings, descripciones, descriptions. So we use this past tense for doing descriptions in the past. Yeah, so could be a description if I'm talking about someone in the past, like when I was a child, like maybe talking about my grandfather or grandmother. Or could be also about someone I saw this morning or yesterday, in general descriptions. So sometimes people is thinking that imperfecto is not possible to use for yesterday. No, it is possible. What about if I'm the witness of a robbery or something, so I can describe the robber that happens yesterday or maybe a couple of hours ago. So the police officer is going to ask me, how was the robber? ¿Cómo era el ladrón? El ladrón era alto y llevaba una chaqueta marrón. So the thief, the robber, was tall and he was wearing a brown jacket. So look, I'm describing this guy. This guy, for sure, right now, he's still being tall. He's not going to change just in a couple of hours. Of course, the jacket is not the same, maybe because he's wearing right now another one. But the main point, descriptions. So we can describe people, animals, objects, places, because also places change during the time. So, the next one, animals. Mi perro se llamaba Barrabás. Era tan grande que parecía un oso. So, my dog's name was Barrabás. So now I'm doing the description. Era tan grande. It was so tall that he looks like a bear. Yeah. So the description, tan grande, era grande. So this is the description of my dog. Yeah. So we can describe also animals that maybe doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So how were the dinosaurs? ¿Cómo eran los dinosaurios? So we can do a description. So animals like maybe like the one animal that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So we can do. Now, places like esa casa era muy grande y oscura. That house was very big and dark. La ciudad era pequeña y bonita. The city was small and beautiful. Nowadays, the city is huge. Mi primer coche era un Toyota verde. My first car was a green Toyota. Yeah, so we are describing places, we are describing people, animals, objects. So we can do all descriptions. Now let's go to the next one. La E. Emociones, emotions, estados mentales, mental states as well. So estaba muy nervioso. Antes del examen, I was so nervous before the exam. Or maybe he was. We don't, or she was. We don't know. Remember, if we say estaba, that shares the same conjugation for yo, the first person, and for he or she, the third person. Next example. Ayer Juan estaba feliz y tranquilo. Yesterday Juan was happy and quiet and calm. Maybe he's not normally like that, or maybe now he's like sad. Yo pensaba que era buena idea. I thought it was a good idea. Yeah. So, emociones o estados temporales. Now, what is the R? Repetición, acciones habituales, habitual actions, repetitions in the past. That is what we were doing in the example, in the previous example at the beginning of the video. Cuando era niño, siempre visitaba a mis abuelos. When I was a child, I used to visit my grandparents. So this is important for repetitions. The adverb, siempre. So it's going to help us a lot to understand. I used to. De niño siempre jugaba con mis amigos. So when I was a child, I used to play with my friends. Another way how to say cuando era niño. De niño, just de niño. Siempre mirábamos ese paisaje desde la ventana. We always watch that landscape from the window. Cada mañana, every morning, tomaba café antes de ir al trabajo. I used to take coffee. I used to drink coffee before going to my job. Mi abuelo siempre cocinaba pasta los domingos. My grandfather used to cook pasta on Sundays. So repetitions. Maybe now in the present, my grandfather is not cooking anymore, or maybe he's not alive anymore. He passed away. One more. Cuando vivíamos en Madrid, salíamos con amigos casi todos los fines de semana. Now I live in Peru again. When we were living in Madrid, we used to go out with my friends almost every weekend. Now let's go to the edad. Age. Cuando tenía 10 años, vivía en una casa en las afueras de la ciudad. When I was 10 years old, I used to live in a house in the surroundings of the city. So again, we are using for the age. So this is a rule, like we will never use the other past tense. We will never say cuando tuve, cuando tenía. Cuando teníamos 12 años, nos gustaba ir al parque. Allí hablábamos, cantábamos y nos divertíamos mucho. When we were 12 years old, we used to like to go to the park. There we used to talk, sing, and we used to have fun. Cuando era niño, siempre jugaba con mis amigos en la escuela. When I was a child, I used to play with my friends at the school. Now the C, clima, the weather. So if we want to describe the weather in general, we are going to use this past tense. El día estaba nublado. The day was cloudy. Hacía mucho frío. There is a typo. Mucho frío. Por las mañanas y por las tardes llovía constantemente. It was really cold in the mornings, and in the afternoons was raining a lot. Hacía mucho calor en el verano. It used to be hot in summer. El viento soplaba con fuerza. The wind was blowing strongly. Era un día lluvioso y triste. Maybe that one for starting a story. It was a rainy and sad day. Now the age, hora, when we want to talk about the time in the past. So, eran las 3 de la tarde y hacía calor. It was 3 o'clock and was hot. So it was 3 o'clock in the past, yeah? For sure you have to use the imperfecto. Eran las 10 de la mañana y aún no había nadie en la oficina. It was 10 a.m. and there was nobody at the office yet. And era la 1 de la tarde. So remember, because it's 3, eran because it's 10, and era because it's 1. La 1 de la tarde y la gente comía en los restaurantes. It was 1 o'clock and people were eating at the restaurants. Now, what else is left here, the A. Acciones simultáneas. Actions that are happening at the same time. Mi compañero de piso dormía mientras yo estudiaba. My roommate was sleeping while I was studying. So here is really important the mientras, while. Mientras los niños jugaban en el jardín, los adultos conversaban en la sala. While the kids were playing in the garden, the adults were talking, were chatting. Yo tomaba notas en clase mientras otros alumnos hacían preguntas. I was taking notes in the class while another students were doing questions. Él trabajaba en la oficina y su jefe observaba. He was working in the office and his boss was observing. So this is ways how we use with these rules the pretérito imperfecto. Another thing really, really important about the pretérito imperfecto is when we are going to talk about the background of a story. It's perfect, the pretérito imperfecto. So it's not just used when we are talking, like following, sorry, all these rules. Also, we can talk about the background. All these rules we were doing are the background of the story. Yeah, and actually, remember, if we are going to do a difference between the imperfecto and the pretérito, so the pretérito is just for going in a story. So if I will say, ayer me levanté a las 6 de la mañana, después desayuné, so I'm going from one action to another action with the pretérito. And then with the imperfecto, with this past tense, we're going to talk about the background. If maybe I want to do a stop in my story and I want to describe what was happening around me. So, después tomé el autobús, then I took the bus, and in the bus, now I want to do like a bubble of time where I will explain what was happening in the bus. So that's the moment of using the imperfecto. En el autobús, una persona leía, somebody was reading, un niño lloraba, a kid was crying, so we are gonna do the description, what was happening there. And actually, I can talk as well about the weather. El clima era bueno, por la ventana veía pájaros volando. Through the window, I saw birds fly. So this is one way how to use the pretérito imperfecto, and a little difference between the pretérito imperfecto and the pretérito indefinido. I hope with this explanation you understand better the difference between these two past tenses and actually when we are going to use the pretérito imperfecto. Actually, there is another acronym as well that you can follow. The name of the acronym is the death cow. So look at that one. The D is descriptions, E emotions, and yeah, you can look online as well. So follow my other videos and share these videos with your friends. And remember, book my lessons as well if you have more questions about the pretérito or grammar in general about the Spanish. Okay, see you in another video. Bye.